Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to hell. On this show, we torture ourselves sometimes watching movies and shows. In this particular case, we're reviewing Obi-Wan Kenobi that is currently on Disney Plus, and this review is going to have spoilers, so be warned. You're already going to know there's going to be some spoilers, and we're going to go over the show as a whole. We're not going to stop and do episode by episode, and we're going to have here next to me a list of points, and this is the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about today. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? First of all, the plot of this show is horrendous, absolutely terrible. Basically, Princess Leia is abducted. It's 10 years after, Revenge of the Sith. We have Obi-Wan living a life, secluded away on Tatooine while taking a look, taking care of Luke from the outskirts. And Princess Leia gets kidnapped. And first of all, there's like no security, by the way. Princess, daughter, adoptive daughter to somebody with a lot of wealth and power. No security whatsoever. She can just walk out into the forest. She gets kidnapped. And then the whole reason for her kidnapping is not for ransom, not for anything like that. It is because one of the characters, Reva, who's an inquisitor, she somehow knows, right, that if she does that, then Bail Organa, the adoptive father, is going to be forced to send out Obi-Wan, and only Obi-Wan, to rescue his daughter. There's no other option. He's not going to use a royal guard. He's not going to pay for bounty hunters. Nothing like that. That would make a lot more sense because the show wants it to be that way. Now, Bail says that if he did any of those things, it would draw too much attention. And so they don't want to do that because they don't want, Darth Vader to know that Leia and Luke are a thing. However, it makes no sense because if you are, if your daughter is a princess and she gets abducted, it is perfectly normal and reasonable for you to send out troops, for you to send out bounty hunters. Nobody would question it. Nobody would think it's out of the ordinary. Nobody would think twice about it. But this is the show that we get. This is the show that we get. And it's focused around them convincing Obi-Wan to leave his post, not guard Luke, and go after Leia and save her, right? That's basically what the whole show is about. Lo and surprise, he's successful in doing so. But we're going to go through a few points here. First, we're going to start with the characters. Now, Leia, the actress, I have absolutely nothing against. She does a pretty good job given the material that she's given. I think a lot of the issues with the show lie in the directing and the writing, okay? So, not on the actress. However, Leia kind of, ping-pongs back and forth. She's either, super smart, way too smart for a 10-year-old, or she's incredibly dumb. So she'll infer things that are not obvious to everybody, like she does with her cousin, and in other situations. And then on others, she will simply decide to forego all reason and then just kind of run away. And by the way, nobody can catch her, even though she's like a tiny 10-year-old. For some reason, every time she runs, adults cannot catch up to her. I have no idea why, just because the plot needs it to. That's a big thing about this whole show, is that they will do things, they will make things happen that shouldn't happen just because the plot needs it to happen. There's no rhyme or reason. They just want to get from point A to point B. They don't know how to write that in, so they just make it work, even if the plan is really, really stupid. Okay? On top of that, we have situations like they're getting chased by a Star Destroyer. The Star Destroyer is shooting at them. They're on a ship. And Leia is seemingly unfazed. She's not even scared at all to be there. Really strange. Bail Organa, a character that was known for being incredibly smart, powerful senator, tactician, all these things, in this show is a complete moron. First of all, we already talked about the fact that he doesn't really send the appropriate help for his daughter and decides to rely only on Obi-Wan for some reason. And number two, he communicates through a transponder, not knowing, because he's worried, right? He hasn't received word from Obi-Wan, and not knowing if, you know, Obi-Wan succeeded, failed, maybe he's gotten caught by the bad guys. No, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna give away all of the information through the transponder so that if somebody's listening, they can kind of put two and two together, and then now you're in trouble. You're putting Luke in trouble, you're putting Leia in trouble. Honestly, I don't even know what to say with that. Obi-Wan, a character assassination, as far as I'm concerned, on this show. He starts out, they even do a recap from the movies, you know, ending on Yoda telling that, you know, he needs to train in order to learn to commune with Qui-Gon. And yet, we come to the show 10 years after, and he's distraught. He doesn't want to do anything. He's given up on the Force. He's not training. He's not doing anything. He's at his weakest because the writers need him to be at that point so he can be kind of thrown around. And only later does he gain his strength. But most of the time, he's being pushed around. He has other characters do things for him, including Leia, a 10-year-old, speaking for him because he is too dumb to figure it out. And honestly, it's sad to see. Darth Vader, in a way, because of what he lets happen, especially when he decides to have the entire Star Destroyer chase after them at the end, just comes out looking like a moron. And even with the excuse that he was using Reva, to what end? Why not just go do it yourself anyway? To me, it makes absolutely no sense. And then we move on to the Inquisitors. The Inquisitors are two-dimensional, and I'm talking about the other two, not Reva. So the ones that are kind of on the sidelines, they're two-dimensional. They have nothing interesting to do other than basically be there to bully Reva, so that, I don't know, I guess you feel some sort of compassion for her, even though she's completely irredeemable in my eyes. I don't know. And then we have Reva herself, who is an Inquisitor. You find out later in the show that she was one of the younglings on the Jedi Temple when Anakin attacked. And for some reason, she survives getting stabbed in the chest by Anakin when she's young. Somehow survives, right? We don't know what happens between then and how she joins up with the Inquisitors, how she becomes one, nothing, right? We just know that that happens. So she knows who Anakin is. However, in the show, she knows that Anakin is Darth Vader as well. And given the information that we get at the end when she goes after Luke, we're led to believe that she makes the connection and she already knows that Luke is Darth Vader's son. Information that nobody should have, nobody should know about. How she figures these things out with almost no clues whatsoever makes no sense. The plot just wants her to do it. And then Obi-Wan spares her because they want you to feel compassion for her, even though she's been killing people, because her motivation this entire time was to get back at Vader for having killed everybody when she was young. But the way that she gets to that is by joining forces with the Sith and killing a bunch of people, adults, children, and somehow we're supposed to be fine with it because she doesn't kill Luke at the end of the show. It's so weird. And again, not on the actress. I know there was a whole bunch of drama online because Disney came out and said that if you didn't like this character, you were racist, which is honestly really stupid. I'm sure there were some people out there who did send out dumb messages, but that's not the case for most of the fan base. As you can see, the problem is with the show overall. She's actually had some good performances in the past in shows like Queen's Gambit and others, and I think she can do a really good job. But I think the material that she had for her character and the way she was directed and the things that happened in the plot for her where she can just figure everything out and having no issues whatsoever is really terrible. Really, really terrible. And then we come to something that obviously was there for fan service and because people think it's cool to see, but in my opinion should have never happened. But even if it did have to happen, there were ways to write it in so that it wouldn't ruin canon and it wouldn't ruin the future, or I guess you could say the past movies or the past shows. And that is the few times that we see a confrontation between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. The first one that we see, Darth Vader is able to lift Obi-Wan up in the air because apparently Obi-Wan is, has foregone with the Force, and so he's really weak. In fact, Obi-Wan runs away instead of even trying to challenge Darth Vader. And then Darth Vader lights up some coals on fire and then drags him through the fire, which, by the way, looks cool. But, that entire fire only burns part of his arm. And then for some reason, Vader decides to, force push, burn out the fire. Why? I have no idea. But that allows for the other lady that's helping them out to shoot a tank, blow up, create more fire. And for some reason, that's enough. The Darth Vader doesn't chase after, she doesn't try to lift Obi-Wan again like he did it before and bring him over from that new fire. He doesn't try to turn off the fire. He doesn't try to jump over, like nothing. He has stormtroopers near him. None of them shoot at the neither the lady nor Obi-Wan. Nothing. They just kind of sit there and they stare at the fire, and they let Obi-Wan be rescued by a bot and be taken away. That's the first confrontation. Terrible. Then we have like a flashback to the past, which in terms of what they show, it's not so bad. But the implication is basically that flashback when Anakin was a Padawan is indicative of the behavior that Vader is going to have in the future. So they basically say that he hasn't grown or matured or learned anything from the past. He acts exactly as impulsively and as stupidly as he did when he was a Padawan, which doesn't make any sense. On top of that, the de-aging process that they did is absolutely terrible. Both actors look way older, and especially Anakin, because he's supposed to be young, right? And I think there was somebody on Reddit, I think, or on Twitter, I can't remember, who did their own version at home of de-aging, and it looked a whole lot better than what they did on the show. That tends to happen. It happened in The Mandalorian with Luke, and it happens again on this show. And the thing about that flashback is, first of all, the choreography, is, if there was any, isn't that good. And then second, it doesn't really serve a greater purpose, and it looks really bad with the de-aging. So not as bad as the first fight, but still there's that thing where it kind of takes you out of it. And then finally we have the last confrontation where, both characters get to show that they're like, their OP-ness, if you will. The fight, I still feel like it's not that great. Most of the show is incredibly dark. I'm assuming, they want dark places because it makes the lightsaber lights shine even brighter in contrast. But a lot of the show is like really mired in darkness. And so they face off for one last time. Obi-Wan gets buried, but he manages to come out of it because he gets inspired by remembering Leia and Luke. And they fight again. And then this time, Obi-Wan cuts the helmet of Darth Vader, which, by the way, was already done before in Rebels, if I'm not mistaken, but on the other side. So they're copying material. Nice. And then, I won't lie to you, seeing Hayden's face on one side and then seeing the helmet on the other, and his evil smile and the delivery, and seeing the back and forth between his voice and James Earl Jones' voice was actually really cool. The problem is, again, he basically states, you didn't kill me, I killed Anakin, basically saying he's evil, he's irredeemable. And what does, Obi do? Because he can't kill him, because he's alive in the future movies, he just lets him live. So now, not only have we assassinated Obi-Wan's character by making him a bumbling, idiot who can't figure things out, who like stumbles, who gave up on the Force, and all this other stuff. But on top of that, you've now made him responsible for all of the deaths that Darth Vader does after that fight. He's responsible for them blowing up Alderaan. He's responsible for every single person that Darth Vader has killed since, because he let him live. And that is absolutely, I don't know, it's terrible. It breaks canon, but it breaks reason. It destroys the character of Obi-Wan, and it wasn't worth risking all of that just to have a somewhat cool action scene. And so where do we end off? We end off on Obi-Wan returning Leia to her parents. She's apparently now very familial with him, even though that's not shown in the original movies. She seems to only know him through her father. And so it's really strange how they're going to handle that now. A lot of people have said that, they're basically planning to redo the original trilogy, which would be horrible, but I wouldn't put it past them at this point. And at the end of the day, I just want to say that most of the stuff on this show, the stuff that we talked about right now, a lot of it is just dumb, but some of it, like the confrontations with Vader, the things that happen, the revelations that Reva has that nobody should have, the fact that she survives. By the way, she got stabbed twice. I forgot about that. She gets stabbed twice, survives twice, because reasons. People teleport around where they need to be. It doesn't matter how far away they are from a place. It's honestly astounding. And all of this to break canon because it doesn't fit in with the original trilogy. It doesn't fit in with some of the shows and the things that you know. They actually stab one of the Inquisitors who was actually in one of the cartoon shows. So they have to have him survive miraculously as well, because otherwise he couldn't be in the show. And so honestly, it's just a mess. It's like people who didn't know how to write. They didn't know how to put two and two together. There's moments where they need something to happen. And so they just say, I need this information. And then they cut to the part where they already got the information, because they can't even write dialogue for the characters to have them get to that conclusion in a satisfying manner. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Obi-Wan show. Oh my God. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you liked it, if you hated it, what other things you liked or didn't like in the comments down below. Subscribe, and I'll see you soon with another review. Until then, I'll see you back in hell.